I'm doing our Facebook Live a little earlier today because I got invited out to dinner. So I'm going to take advantage of that. I'll get your questions answered now. All right. So let's jump in. All right. So I did a question poll because that tends to get a lot more traction, I've noticed, with the group, because it's easier to choose a thing than come up with a thing, right? So I posted two options, and the first option was, how do I occupy my personal authority? So this goes in line with this week's little experiment, occupying our authority. So let's define what authority is. Very, very simply and basically, authority is the ability to choose and act as you want to. Now, that doesn't include the option of you getting to choose the consequence of those choices and actions. But you do get to choose what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And then you're going to take action on it. That's really where authority breaks. It becomes fundamental. So if we're going to occupy the space of our authority, then we're going to choose what we do. We're going to choose who we do it with. We're going to choose what we allow to be in our lives. We're going to choose what we don't allow to be in our lives. We're going to choose how we invest in our friendships and our relationships, our career, business, whatever we're doing. We're going to choose what we don't invest in, who we don't invest in, things like that. We limit our ability, our time and energy of specific people, and we maximize it with other people. This is us practicing our authority. This is not about getting other people to change. We have no authority over their thoughts, feelings, choices, and actions. That's their domain. That's their yard. Personal authority is that we choose how we're going to manage our feelings. We choose what we're going to do with our desires. We choose our choices and we choose our actions and do them. So occupying our space, occupying the space of our authority rather, is all about understanding what's in our control, what's in our power, and then acting through that. So again, it has nothing to do with anybody else changing. It has everything to do with what we're choosing and then how we're acting. Now, there's a little trick here. If our actions and our choices are not congruent, meaning if I choose to lose weight and I go out and eat a ton of ice cream, there's a discongruence, a disconnection there. They're not in harmony. So obviously I'm not going to honor my choice and I'm working against it. That's called self-sabotage. We need to make sure that our actions relate to our choices so that we get the choice we chose, right? And that's part of acting in our authority, is the ability to do that. Another thing that comes with authority is the right to change our minds, the right to say no, the right to say yes, the right to say yes and then change our minds and say no, okay? The right to dictate what we're going to tolerate, how much we're going to tolerate of this person, place, or thing that we're tolerating. Okay, we have a right to change and then act on that change. Okay, so authority is all about connecting back to your ability to make change through your actions and choices in your life. Now, we're going to disappoint people by making these choices. We're going to excite other people. When we thrive beyond codependency, we thrive beyond the trauma of fawning and things like that. It no longer has anything to do with pleasing them. It has nothing to do with making them happy. It has everything to do with our happiness, with what works for us, what's in alignment with our core priorities, what brings us happiness, that kind of thing. That's what we want to be focused on, okay? That's one of the easiest ways to occupy our authority, is to say no, to give ourselves permission not to care. We might care, so let's honor that. But if we don't, let's honor that too. And to say yes to things we want, to disappoint other people and not fix it. That's practicing our personal authority right there. That's occupying our power, okay? That's what is the gist here. Now, when I work with clients one-on-one, or you start with a codependency confidence system, we always start with our beingness. We always start with our power, because nothing changes unless we accept our power. That means we also need to accept that we might be different than what other people want us to be, and we might have expectations of others that don't fit with who they are. We don't have a real right to ask other people to change who they are or even how they do specific things. We can ask and say, hey, I'd like you to communicate this way with me. Or if you want a different kind of behavior from them, you can ask and see what they'll do. But we don't have a right to dictate that they absolutely do that. If we ask them and they say yes and then they do it, cool. If they don't, then you've got to make a decision if that's a good compatible fit for you or not, because that really matters. And most of the time, when we're dealing with relationships and they're healthy, or we're in a healthy system, we're not going to need to control how people do things, how they say things, what they say, when they say, what they do, when they do it, how they do it, because we're more interested in what they're trying to communicate. We're working towards understanding, we're working towards connection, rather than being right or wrong or working for some sort of control element. So again, when we're playing with personal autonomy and personal authority, it's about being in our yard, maintaining our things, rather than trying to control something that isn't our yard. All right. Second question was, how do I get past the fear of disappointing others? So really, congruency here. I figured that would be a good question that comes in with practicing our personal authority. The trick to getting past other people's disappointment is to get over their approval. We have an attachment to this judgment we call approval. We have an attachment to this judgment we call disappointment. Because in the fawning system, especially if we've dealt with abuse or we've dealt with neglect or we have tried to do things right, we've been trying to earn approval or earn love, basically. We are dealing with a deficit of self-value. We're unaware of our self-worth. We think it's determined by another person's approval or rejection. And this is why approval or disappointing others is so powerful to us. It's why it has so much pull, because we're basically regulating our value based on their approval or rejection. So our sense of self is completely controlled by that external. That's why we sometimes fear connection. That's why we feel crazy sometimes, because they're yanking and pulling, because we've made them responsible for that. We need to return our value back to ourselves. What this means is that we stop judging our value as right or wrong, good or bad. We stop trying to evaluate the value, find the value, discover the value, feel the value. And we start respecting the fact that we exist. So we move into a space of occupying our beingness. Now, we may not like this. It may feel lonely. It may feel scary. We may not even have an idea of what to do with it. But if we're willing to rest into our body, tune in with our energy, pay attention to how we feel, honor what we feel, then we're going to start to sense our beingness again. We're just going to start hearing our voice, because it's not up here. Our analysis and our thoughts and our reasonings are not who we are. Okay? Our beingness is who we are, and we'll sense that through our body, and we can perceive it a bit through our thought, but most of our thought's programmed, right? So it's not really reliable. But we get into our body, we can start to sense again. We can start to reconnect with our emotions about things. We can start to know what we want and what we don't want. We can hear the voice of our desire again. We can hear us again, okay? When we start to value us as an autonomous person, then our fear of disappointing other people goes away, or gets really small, because our value is no longer attached to that person. Okay, that's a really, really important component here. So that's how we get past that fear of disappointing others, is by retrieving our value and making it sacred, keeping it with ourselves. All right, so I have another question that was asked to me privately, so I'm going to just bring that up. And it coming up here. Yeah. Yeah, so it's actually in line with this. How do I get over, fearing other people's disappointment or judgment? It's to receive the judgment without absorbing it. It's like, oh, I give you permission to judge me all you want, and I give myself permission not to care about it. I give myself permission not to fix it. I don't have to tolerate this thing. Cool. Move on with my life. Easy peasy. That's how we do it. Guys, our attachment to other people's approval, what they think of us, is conditioned. It's programmed. It's what we were taught to do in order to regulate the other person's expectations, their feelings, so that we can feel safe. That's the fawn response to the threat of being discarded. That's our big fears. We're not going to be kept. We're not going to be loved. We're not going to be known. Well, now I got to retrieve our value and honor it, which means giving other people giving back to them their right to be disappointed, to judge us, to not like us. That also gives us the right to disappoint, to judge, and not to care about it. We can be disappointed. We can disappoint people, and we don't have to fix anything. Because in real loving relationships and in interconnection, people aren't going for right and wrong. They're not going for control. They're not going for the benefit we can get from the person. We're going for understanding. I want to understand why you did that. I want to understand what your need is here. I want to understand why you're disappointed. I want to understand why you're making this choice that I'm disappointed in. We care about how the other person feels. They care about how we feel. So there's a different dialogue that exists between these people. Okay? Now that's very important there to getting past other people's rejection. Now, Renee asks, how do you overcome the fear of moving on? The fear of moving on is a biggie because now we're moving into the unknown. We're starting to explore potential that we're not really sure how we're going to deal with. So the way we deal with the fear of moving on is to embrace the experience of discovery. And that means we've got to do some mindset shifts. We got to move from a fear-based mindset, which means bad things are going to happen to me, to a curiosity about, hey, this could happen. This could be cool. I'm willing to receive whatever shows up and learn from it. That's the key to this, is the curiosity mindset, being open and curious to receiving a new outcome. The second component in this is to develop skills so that you can get the result you want. So moving on allows us to make space to receive something new. The easiest way to minimize that fear of moving on is to create a new outcome that your mind can focus on and pursue. That'll give you more courage to step out and do. But if you plug that in with proper skills development, proper coaching, mentoring, or therapy, then it becomes a lot easier to embrace that new unknown and take control of your life. Okay? So thank you guys for being a part of the group. Tomorrow we're going to talk about some of those shifts that we've made and how we get support. The group is about support. It's all about it. It's just we're going to change the way that it happens because sometimes people need to vent, and the venting triggers people. Okay? And now we do need to take some responsibility for our triggers, but we can do that by separating the group and allowing one group to be consensual about venting. It's like, I know in this group, if I'm in it, there's going to be venting. I could get triggered. I'm going to be responsible for that. And then over in this other group, I can ask for support. And it's a very easy thing to do. How do I'm dealing with this situation? What do I do with it? Is an easy way to ask for support. How do I do this? Easy way to ask for support. I'm struggling. What can I do with this situation? Those are the kinds of ways I would invite you to ask for support in the group. Now, if you need to vent, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're confused, you just need to get it out, then go to the vent group, post it there, and then you'll get support there too, okay? So that's really the big definition here, is where venting happens and where it doesn't. And venting is, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm looking to get it out, I'm looking to be empathized with, but I don't have a how do I or what could I or should I do question. Now, if you'll have a vent plus the question, post the question in our current community and post the vent in the other one. You'll be good to go, okay? I hope that helps. We'll talk more about it a bit tomorrow, okay, guys? I appreciate you. Remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. And if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to subscribe and share this video and comment what you got out of the video today. Thank you again, guys, for being here every Thursday. We have group live Q&A, and so keep an eye out for that. And then we have our 2 other training videos on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Thank you again, guys, for being here. I'll see you guys next week.